What's up, guys? Welcome to the Degeneration Y podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Alex.
And I'm like,
There you go. Little slow response there.
you're actually just going through the introduction. So there you go.
No, I was going to point to you, obviously. So this is our first attempt at recording podcast episodes. If you're watching this, you'll see some short clips up on our TikTok. Basically, all of our handles are the same across YouTube and TikTok. So it's just going to be D_Generation Y. Pretty straightforward. We're basically just two guys who talk wrestling with each other anyway. So we figured, why not record it? Maybe you guys will get some entertainment out of it, like we do. Um, so I think the first thing that we really wanted to kind of that was basically the first thing we wanted to go over. But Mike, do you have anything that you want to like add in terms of like how we're doing this, why we're doing this?
Yeah,
Some of the
no,
stuff
I
we
mean,
talked about.
you kind of covered it, and we were just talking about it a little bit ago. We hope you guys enjoy it. We would be doing this whether or not we're recording it. So like it and follow, or don't. I mean,
Yeah, pretty straight.
I mean, it's whatever you want. You enjoy
Yeah,
it, great. If not, then whatever. It is
yeah,
what
pretty
we're not everybody's cup of tea. Right?
definitely not, definitely not. Yeah, pretty straightforward. So we're basically gonna run through a couple of segments here, guys. First thing we're gonna jump off is one that we particularly seem to enjoy, which is guessing a poorly described wrestler. So we're gonna kick that off.
Yes, sir.
I guess
Right,
I'll
you
go
ready then?
first. Yeah, do you want me to give my hints first?
Oh, I thought I was giving my hints.
It's up to you. You can go first if you haven't ready.
All right. Yeah, cool. All right, you ready then?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so this superstar has had some plastic surgery.
Plastic surgery. China.
Fuck off!
That was too easy. Come on, it was either her or
Because
Stephanie
I was gonna
McMahon.
start with has been an IC champion, and then I had a feeling you were gonna say, all right, well, male or female. So if I said it right there, you were gonna say China probably, because I'm pretty sure she's the only female IC champ. I don't think.
100%.
Yeah, right.
100%. Yeah.
And then I was also potentially saying start off as a manager, which I probably should have done that.
Yeah, I think plastic surgery should have been like the last hint.
Actually, so it was originally. I initially had the has been an IC champ as first. Started off as a manager as second. Didn't last long in the Royal Rumble. Has been a part of a group, and then has had some plastic surgery.
Yeah, I feel like because I feel like
I'm 0 for 2 here now with these ones.
yeah, because honestly I
Was it Kane the first time?
because especially if you had said IC champ, I probably would have never asked male or female because I'm just like I would have kind of
Stop
forgotten.
getting in my. Well, I was
Yeah.
also glad that we did this one. We waited because last time when we were videotaping, we had just finished watching the Stone Cold Jeff Jarrett in,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The interview. Right.
show, right? And they had talked about China, and I was gonna do a
Okay.
hint. I remember that night she was on my list of the three, and then I was gonna do a hint involving like the something to do with the kitchen sink match that she had with Jeff Jarrett.
Oh.
Or the
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
household items match, right? And then I was like, oh no, that would be too obvious. So I'm like trying to think, and it's like, whatever. All right, so we can go with yours now.
That was yeah, that was real quick. Yeah, so do you want to jump into I guess we can jump into mine or we can go straight into the next segment and keep it separated a little bit.
Yeah, that works.
Uh, yeah, so I think the next thing we really kind of wanted to explain to everybody is just basically the trajectory of what we've been doing since the quote unquote pandemic started a little over 2 years ago now.
Right.
So I guess from my perspective,
Hold on, actually, because I always tell this story first, and I always tell it from my perspective, and I think I forget sometimes that. Well, no, you know what? I'll let you tell it because I was going to say I forget sometimes that you maybe have a different.
yeah, so well, it's funny, yeah, because the whole basically for the background of this, guys, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, right when the pandemic started, both Mike and I started watching WWE from the very first episode of Raw in 1993, and we're working our way to catch up to WWE in present day. Because essentially, both of us were fans as kids, but then we grew up, life happened, school, work, friends, all that stuff. We stopped watching for a while.
I feel like it was
College, college was definitely
my senior
yeah.
year. I was working a lot, and then college, I really stopped watching.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, obviously with everybody life happened. So we kind of fell off, but we wanted to understand some of the history and some of the storylines that had happened because we'd heard cool things. So we were like, screw it. Let's watch from, before we were even old enough to watch to present day and see what's going on.
Well,
So
then the story that I always tell, from my point of view, is that right before the right, I don't know if it was right before the pandemic or right after, but my nephew was really big into watching wrestling and WWE, whatever, and he kept asking to go to an event because he knew, or a live event because he knew that I used to go as a kid, and I would go to the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, and I would just like wait outside and like wait outside of the cages as they were all coming in and try to get autographs and stuff like that. So he had mentioned that he wanted to go. So in 2020, when we took on this undertaking, it was definitely something that I think we both thought we were going to get through quicker than we had. Granted, we've gotten through a lot, but I mean, for me, it was, and I don't know whether or not I just lumped you in to the plan or not, but I had initially jumped on this wagon of, oh yes, let's catch up completely because if I'm not going to take my nephew to an event where I have no freaking idea who is who, what's going on. Like I had no idea who anybody was. So when I don't know who actually proposed it at this point, but one of us had said something about catching up, and I was like, oh yeah, that'd be perfect because then once we catch up, we can take him to an event and we know what's going on. We'd get a kick out of it because we like wrestling anyways, and he'd have fun because it would be his first live event. Granted, this was now 2 years ago, so he's getting older, and I don't know if he's still into it. I think he still is, but not as much as he was 2 years ago when we were like, oh yeah, let's
not as
do
much as us.
right now. He's in middle school and he's thinking he's a tough shot. Like,
Yeah.
but that's always the story that I tell him. I always lump you in like that's why you did it, even though it's not probably at all close to why you started catching.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny that you say that because I think that story kind of led into why I was like, yeah, let's watch the full 30 years. Let's start with Raw episode 1,
Right.
work our way up through then like SmackDown, NXT, all that other stuff. But originally what I was doing, I like at one point got bored and I was like, you know what? WWE has this app. They have apparently a bunch.
I didn't even know they had the app because they came out with the WWE app shortly after I stopped watching full time. So 2010 ish, right?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, I think that's when like the promotion began. So I was like, oh, they got this app. Like I kind of want to quote unquote relive my childhood and watch some of the pay-per-views and some of the matches that I really enjoyed as a kid. Like the one that I really wanted to rewatch specifically was John Cena versus Edge TLC for WWE Championship. Like I remember watching that as a kid live, loving it. I was like, oh, I'd love to go back and watch it. So I started watching all of these pay-per-views from the time period that I had originally watched. So like late '05 until like early 2010. So like a 7 year period roughly.
It's crazy that that's like the vivid time, even though because we're not that much different in age. Because I'm what late '91, I'm end of '91 December, and you're
And I'm 93, end of
yeah, so
93. Yeah.
yeah, so you're only 2 months older than my sister, which is funny because like my sister and I, and this is probably just because we grew up watching. My dad was a fan, my uncle was a fan, so we grew up just watching as a kid. I think I started probably there's pictures of me watching like Royal Rumble with my dad and like a bunch of his friends. I think in like '98 or something like that. So like I have vivid memories of the Attitude Era. And for me, I feel like reminiscing when we were getting through those times, I don't think that you had that much. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh, and then I realized you didn't watch it as a kid. You were mainly watching it as like middle school, high school, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't and that was the big thing is like I had always heard these crazy things because of the commentators or just like flashbacks and stuff about the Attitude Era. But during the actual Attitude Era, not even because I was too young, I just never had, I guess, like an influence in a way in my life that was like, hey, I watch wrestling, come watch it with
Right.
me. So like I didn't really know what it was. It wasn't
That's
that
the
I
one thing
disliked
that I
it.
can dedicate to or say that I got from, I think, my
the one thing that in your name, a wrestling addiction in your name. Yeah. But yeah, so I got the WWE app like December or January. I think actually it was around January because I remember I was like, oh, Royal Rumble is coming up. I kind of want to watch that. Let me get the app and I'll watch some of the old stuff that I watched when I was a kid. And then as I was watching all these pay-per-views that I had kind of already seen, I was like, ooh, I kind of forget what happened in the storyline. So then I would go back like 2 or 3 weeks, watch all the episodes of Raw or SmackDown. So since I was kind of doing what we're doing now piecemeal anyways. When you said like, oh, we should start back in the '90s and like catch all the episodes, like, yeah, why not? Like I missed all of this stuff as a kid. Let me check it out. And that's kind of how we got there. You know, we went from '93 and now we're both, you know, somewhere in 2017, which is crazy. That's what, 24 years in a 2.5 year span.
And I will say you watched, I think, more than I've watched. Because
So I think to an
yeah.
I think to an extent. So like as more background,
Hold on.
yeah, go for it. Because I think
pause it. Can you pause the recording so you don't have to?
no, but I'll just keep like kind of talking because I think what basically basically we're both in a way taking shortcuts because obviously trying to watch 30 true years of WWE content would take forever. It would take almost 30 years. So what I've personally been doing is I'll watch every episode of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the pay-per-views, but especially on like their weekly TV shows, I'll skip through most of the matches and I'll just catch backstage interviews or promos or like non-match attacks because like, you know, I obviously since I'm like listening to in the background during work and like all the other things,
right.
I don't have time to watch like the random 5-minute match between R-Truth and Santino Marella, for example. Like nothing against both of those individuals. Like I actually enjoy both of them a lot. But like their random 5-minute match on an episode of Raw that doesn't have any like storyline to it, I'm like, cool, I'm sure it was a good put together match, but like in the grand scheme of like what we're trying to learn about WWE and like all of the stuff that we missed, like it's not significant.
Right.
And I know you've been kind of not to that extent, but I know you've been like doing something similar where you're not watching each little bit of everything to get through it as quick as we can.
Yeah, no, I pretty much similar approaches, but different at the same time because I just watch the pay-per-views and then I will watch like the promo leading up to the match or whatever, and then I'll go back and be like, okay, that was kind of cool, so I'll like flip through the weeks kind of. So it's a little bit more confusing for me, I think, but it works.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, I constantly get the texts of, hey, do you know what happened here? Or like, do you know why this person did that thing? And I'm like, no, dude, you're watching it. Why don't you?
Yeah, that's like, well, it's because I'm like, do I want to put in the effort to really go in and figure it out, or is it something that can be easily explained? So it's like it's the level of, do I really want to find out, or is it like, don't really care that much, but I kind of do, so let me see if you can quickly explain.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I'm able to do it sometimes, but other times I'm like, I don't even know who the person you are is talking about. Yeah, right. You get for me, like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely been an interesting ride over the past 2 years, seeing some of the, let's be blunt, some of the god awful characters that came out of like the early and mid '90s.
I would not be allowed today.
No, some of them, not even just the ones that wouldn't be allowed, because yeah, there's plenty that wouldn't be allowed. But they're good characters, like for example, The Godfather never would be allowed today, but is a funny character to watch. I'm talking more about like what was the garbage man character, like who was exactly that's how insignificant. That's like
early '90s, right, or mid '90s.
Yeah, very early to mid '90s. Like it's like going back and seeing some of those characters.
He had a similar look to like the Brooklyn Brawler, right?
Kind of, yeah. He had like the one piece overall. He had like the overall one piece, yeah, something like that.
Did he come back like somebody else?
Yeah, I think he was the guy that could puke on command. I'm pretty sure that guy was the same. I'm pretty sure those two characters were like one person. But so, yeah, it's been a ride.
You know,
for sure.
Catching up, oddly enough, made me realize, I don't know if for you, I have like memories of matches that either I just never saw again or never actually happened. Because I have a specific memory as a kid going to a match at the Dunkin' Donuts Center. Well, I guess it wasn't the Dunkin' Donuts Center at that time. It was the convention center.
Yeah.
And I always swore that it was Undertaker and Kane, but one of them chokeslammed the other through the ring. And
that did happen at some point.
It happened, okay, because I was like, I thought I had vivid memories of that happening, but I don't remember seeing it again when we caught up.
So yes, maybe it wasn't them, but I do remember someone getting chokeslammed through the ring. But it's kind of funny that you bring up, like, I guess in a way that's almost like a Mandela effect, because because I have like a similar memory. So like do you remember the whole segment where out of nowhere Kofi Kingston just loses his Jamaican accent
Yes,
and like
yes, yes, yes.
Triple H calls him out being like, "Hey, aren't you Jamaican or whatever?" So
Yeah.
it's funny because like that was around the time that I was still watching, like just before I fell off. But I really remember it being John Cena as the one to call out Kofi
Oh,
Kingston.
okay.
But then as we're watching it back, I see it. I'm like, I'm waiting for it to happen. I'm waiting for it to happen. And then it's
Yeah.
Triple H that does it. And I'm like, but wait, I swear it was Cena. What's going on here? But
Yeah.
either way, obviously the segment is still as funny as it, like,
Right.
it's still one of my favorite segments, but I'm like, huh, I completely misremember that. Or the timeline changed and we're in a new one. Yeah. It could go either way. Um, anything else you want to add to I guess the past 2 years before we jump into your fun guessing?
Don't think I had anything else.
Okay. All right, cool. So this one, I'll actually be a little impressed if you get, but guess the poorly described wrestler has a brother,
Bubba Ray Dudley.
not Bubba Ray.
Okay. Male or female?
They're male.
Okay. Go ahead.
They've been part of multiple tag teams.
Jeff Hardy.
It's not Jeff Hardy.
Okay. Are they real life brothers as well as storyline brothers, or just for the
I
story?
I believe it's just a storyline brother.
Okay. Go ahead.
They had a wedding on SmackDown.
Edge.
It's not Edge.
Fuck. Oh. Who's up, sir? All right. So they had. Sorry, what was that last one? They had a what?
Wedding on SmackDown.
SmackDown.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh. Wait. Am I on a guess now, or?
No, you're on a question because you guessed Edge for that.
Okay. So the wedding that they had on SmackDown, was it for them or somebody else?
They were a groom in the wedding.
They were the good, so it was for them. Okay. And now it's my next hint, right?
Yes, and so the next hint is they have a great ass.
You want me to say Billy Gunn? Because he doesn't have a brother. Oh no, he did. He did. He did. Smoking Guns. Billy Gunn. Is it Billy Gunn?
It's
Yeah.
Billy Gunn.
And the wedding
Yeah.
was Chuck and Billy.
Yeah,
Okay.
Billy and Chuck. Yeah. And then the final clue is just going to be is in AEW because of the whole "sit me daddy ass." Yeah. So no, that was it though. It was
You would be
Billy
surprised
Gunn.
that I got that. I feel like that was well. Once you look at them all together, I feel like they're obviously considered one.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I felt like
Because you probably weren't banking on me remembering the Smoking Guns.
part of it was you not remembering the Smoking Guns, but I also thought that if you had already guessed the gender and I mentioned a wedding on SmackDown, I was thinking you weren't going to think of the Billy and Chuck wedding, and you're going to be like, oh, but what females got married on like SmackDown and stuff?
Yeah, I definitely that wouldn't have made me guess that, but that's why I was like, I was still, yeah. If I didn't guess male or female, that would have been a bit harder for me because then I would have been like, okay, well, I guess no, because you clarified with saying that this person was the groom. So even if I didn't guess male or female, you would have automatically.
Well, no, but probably not because like the way I'm thinking of it is if you hadn't already known what gender I was going for, I would have just said yeah they were in the wedding itself. Like I wouldn't have specified groom at that point because then it's maybe a little bit more of a giveaway, but also maybe it wouldn't be because then you're also like you're still not thinking of like the double groom situation.
Right.
But yeah, so
better than mine.
Good, yeah.
I got to the fourth one.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think either of us has gotten one wrong yet. I'm pretty sure we've both gotten them all in the live ones. Yeah.
No, I think my second. I think I'm 2 for 1. I think I got one wrong.
You got one wrong.
I got 2 right and 1 wrong. So
the correct. Yeah. So wait, so you'd be 2 for 3, but who'd you get wrong then? I can't remember.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Let me look at the videos themselves because I really don't remember who you got wrong because I can't remember who my first couple of live ones were.
I got Rikishi right.
Yeah, Rikishi, and who was the other one? Yeah, I can't remember who the other one was. I could have sworn you got it right though. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I got it right. I did, so I guess I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah, who was it? It was Rikishi, Billy Gunn, and then who was the other one that I did?
Oh, it was Santino Marella. That's what it was.
Santino. Oh, that's right. You did get that one because I think on the Cobra guess or the Snake or whatever it was. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that was pretty good. So I know we talked a little bit about this beforehand and over text, and obviously when we were hanging out last week. But I'm definitely interested in some of your thoughts on your first full exposure to AEW. Obviously, you being a bigger WWE person and still working on catching up, most of what you've seen from AEW has been like TikToks that I sent you, or like Snapchats of like crazy bumps that like Jeff Hardy or somebody is taking. So like having actually sat. What was that?
I mean, I was saying like in like articles and stuff. And
the articles, yeah.
I mean, the thing that what MJF.
Oh, the MJF pipe bomb. Yeah.
And then
Yeah, so I'm definitely interested in what you thought of like the Blood and Guts match and like just even the show as a whole, or like what you know about AEW. Like,
so I think I was like alluding to it earlier, where I was saying like I think my biggest concern is because I think they're doing great. The matches are awesome. That Blood and Guts match, I think what you said it looks like it was, or I guess not. It really wasn't based off of War Games. I don't think it was. The fact that it had multiple rings.
No, that's how War Games work. It was like two people started, and then one would come in every couple of minutes.
Cool, or I guess maybe I'm more thinking about the actual setup. Maybe I'm focusing on that more than anything.
Maybe.
Whatever. But either way, it was sick, and I think it's what I was saying earlier is that I worry like it's my investment or something, or I guess. I don't know. It's nice to see that WWE has a competitor, not that they didn't have a major competitor. And I don't know if like TNA Impact, that's been around for ages, and I don't know if they just don't get enough credit maybe as a major competitor to WWE, or if WWE just sees them how like they saw ECW in the beginning times, where it's like they're not really like our competition, so we can let them like exist, which is WWE let them exist, right?
Right.
But what I was saying earlier, my whole point was that I see them going down the route of what like WCW did in their in the early ons, where they have all these innovative matches, all these cool things going on. They're trying to be the new exciting thing, and I think they're doing great at that. But now, where they're falling into the trap that I think WCW did as well, is that they're getting these like well-established, or I should say, well-established, already established names, whether it's from other promotions, but mainly WWE. A lot of people are dropping off and going to AEW, or their contracts are up and they're going to AEW, or they're getting let go from the whole major let go from the pandemic and everything, and then going to AEW and they're getting signed with these. I don't know the actual numbers, but I'm assuming major contracts, right? And then you have all these people that have been with them from day one, and I think that's exactly what like MJF was alluding to with his pipe bomb, kind of, and that's in my eyes the same kind of thing that happened to WCW. I think AJ Styles mentioned the same thing when he was in WCW. You had all these well-established people getting paid a top dollar, getting all these opportunities like Hulk Hogan and all that stuff. No disrespect to them, I think obviously they're well established for a reason. But it's like you have all these people, they're well established for a reason. They're already established. They don't need more focus. Like they have their main event type stuff, obviously, but maybe try to work on the, promoting the people from within that you already have instead of, now hiring and hiring and hiring. So stop pause on the hiring and now focus on your talent and make them feel appreciated. Because I think WWE kind of does that to an extent. Obviously, you hear all the rumors that they have their inner circle, they have their favorites, and that's the image of what they want to put out. So those are the people that they mainly focus on, which I get. And then obviously, because you have to go with the what's best for business, which makes sense. Obviously, they know what they're freaking doing. I mean, it's been around. It's the only one that's really been around for. Or I guess this successful, maybe it's me speaking ignorantly. I don't know. Don't get mad at me, people watching. But I feel like they're the top dog that's been around for the longest, right?
Right.
You have obviously other promotions that could have been around for longer, but I don't think they're on par as WWE. And again, maybe it's my ignorance that's speaking to it because I'm from the United States. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like a couple points to that. I think like the one big promotion that hasn't been around quite as long as WWE, but has been around longer than like AEW, and I believe even longer than like Impact or Ring of Honor, and all that is New Japan. They've been around for a significant amount of
And that's what
time.
I'm saying. My ignorance with being from the United States, right?
Right. And I think the reason like they've been able to coexist for as long as they have, and actually another good example too, I think I've mentioned them to you briefly, is Triple A down in Mexico.
Yeah.
Like Triple A and New Japan, they're both relatively big promotions, and I think the two of them along with WWE have been able to kind of in a way coexist as long
Mhm.
as they have, is because AAA and New Japan are such different styles of wrestling compared to WWE, and plus their international market. So like the market that WWE is going for is very different than what Japan and Mexico are
And I
going for.
think
So I think it helps.
and that I feel like that was done on purpose. What I say done on purpose is like they're leaving that market alone on purpose because I feel like they tried to branch out with 205,
Yeah,
and maybe it wasn't as successful as they hoped. So they're just like, okay, well,
yeah, and it's funny too because a lot of people I think don't realize or just forget, but WWE has actually done business with both of those companies before. So
right.
I forget what year it was. I want to say it was like maybe 95. There were actually a couple of AAA wrestlers that appeared in the Royal Rumble. So again, I think it's 95. I'd have to go fact check myself, but the 95 Royal Rumble, not only were a few of the AAA wrestlers in the Royal Rumble match itself, there were a few other wrestlers that had an actual match on the pay-per-view card. So it's like WWE isn't afraid to do business with them because again, they have different markets. It kind of helps
Yeah,
maybe it helps some Mexican nationalists see WWE because they're like, oh, my favorite AAA wrestler is about to
right.
be in this Royal Rumble match.
Exposure, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
that was like obviously 95.
streaming apps now. Oh well, that was 95. So you
Right. Exactly. So like, especially like now with streaming apps and like cable and like
yeah,
internet, like it might not be as big of a deal to try and reach those audiences, but especially back in 95, like
right,
if you didn't have access to WWE on like cable, like you're not going on YouTube and watching like highlights of the match and stuff.
right. I wonder if that's actually why. Like once I noticed, or maybe not noticed, but now that we're talking it out, if that's why there has been minimal interactions like that with WWE and other programs since the like early 2000s.
It could
Because
be.
now there's really since they know that they can easily access them through the app, through any app, Peacock or their own app, how it was at that time. Um, Now that they don't need to put out extra effort to reach those markets, they're not doing it. Maybe that's where the whole rule came up, where they don't mention other promotions anymore. Because right, that's the whole thing. They
So
don't acknowledge it in like 2010s into the 2020s either, right? They don't acknowledge other promotions at all.
for the most part, they will in some scenarios. Because like if you ever like listen to an AJ Styles match or a Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson match, they'll mention how they were the IWGP champions, which is those are the
I was gonna
championships
say other
for.
than right, which is what I was sorry, I should have maybe clarified a bit more. But which what I mean is like other than saying like oh they were the champion at other promotion or they were
Right.
a part of the club in another promotion.
Yeah.
Something that they don't like. I remember in like when ECW would come around, like ECW stars would come. Granted, now I think when that first happened, did ECW wasn't owned by WWF at that time, right? Or
ECW wasn't owned by WWF,
when
WWE
they
until
first
after it
started?
went out of business.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
when
they
she
didn't
was like
own.
always like, oh, what are they doing here? Extremely crappy ass. Like that was actually like it wasn't owned. That was just an actual crossover, right?
That was just like a business
Yeah,
deal between Vince and Paul. Yeah, exactly.
which is what I'm saying. Like, so those kind of things. Once I feel like exposure, like, I mean, I guess they never, they did in the Royal Rumble, but I guess they didn't really do much other than that with other promotions.
Right, and like honestly, like don't get me wrong, I was hyped up to see Mickey James
Oh,
in the Royal Rumble,
yeah.
especially wearing like the
Forget about
TNA belt. Oh, I thought that's what you were alluding to. You were alluding to like the AAA thing, right?
Yeah, I was just saying,
Oh yeah,
I don't think that I hadn't seen anybody from another promotion come in or be featured on, since like ECW type stuff. I mean, I feel like the closest thing was that, and then you just said the Mickey James, and I completely forgot about that for a second.
well, another close example was I don't know exactly how the contracts were working at the time because a few of them ended up fully coming to WWE, but like that initial cruiserweight tournament to like get the new cruiserweight championship that happened in like 2016 or maybe 2016.
Kick off to a
Like like to kick off 205 and all that stuff. Like that tournament had wrestlers from other companies, and the same thing actually with like DIY, Gargano, and Ciampa. Like that first tournament that they were in for Dusty Rhodes or whatever, they technically weren't, or at least they were billed as not being part of WWE. So it's interesting the way they choose to do business with other companies, like sporadically, but then also not at the same time.
And then you have the Mae Young tournament too, which had a bunch of people from all over, or a bunch of
or billed at least. Yeah. It's definitely interesting.
I mean, I guess that leads us to our next topic, anyways, because I feel like that would be cool to see some type of more crossover. And I don't know if they're starting a new direction, if the rumors are true or not. Or I know I read a couple articles that were saying like with this new quote unquote leadership, and we don't know how that's. Don't want to touch that.
Yeah, well,
I wonder if there's any, because like crossover event between WWE and their major competitor. Could you imagine? Like that'd be insane. But I think we were talking about that before, where it's like it would be such an annoying thing. I think the biggest part, if they were to do that, like if it was like a battle of the best type thing, no promotion is gonna willingly be like, okay, well, I'll lose this one, or okay, we'll lose this one, like willingly. Like yes, it's gonna have to be tight, like maybe like just one match over, or like because it would be stupid if they just, we're gonna end it in a draw because we don't
every time,
right.
I feel like in my mind, and kind of goes back to what you're saying of I don't know if any promotion would want this to happen, but I almost think like let's just use WWE and AEW as the example. Like let's say they're the two companies that are going to do the next like crossover event or whatever. You have to have like those two companies like pick their wrestlers that they're going to use for the event, but then use basically like an outside promoter, like a third promoter. So like have a writer from like New Japan, let's just say, actually write the event and decide like, because obviously you two, like the guy from New Japan being like, hey, you two guys, you're not going to agree on what the outcome should be because you're obviously going to want your guys to look better than the other. So I'm going to be the one to decide if it's fairly. I mean, Paul Heyman would be amazing at doing that. Honestly, it's just like I feel like
a full setup. Granted, he'd be more biased, obviously.
He'd be more biased.
I also feel like he'd be the one person that is biased that would be like, yeah, all right, I'll make this. He'd probably make WWE be the overall winner, regardless. But I think
have like some
probably really good, really well planned. Maybe have like Paul and Cody together. No, because that would still.
But at the same time, like Cody would be maybe a little bit less biased if he was working with Paul, because don't forget he did essentially help start AEW.
Right.
Like it's.
I would say if you were to have WWE representatives talking on the table to discuss out and plan out everything, it would be Paul and Cody, and then I guess the brothers at AEW, and what's his name?
Oh, the Young Bucks, you mean? Matt and Jack, Matt and Nick, I mean.
And then who's the that? Is his name like?
Tony Khan, the owner, you mean? Yeah, it's the guy that signs the big.
Or maybe not even him, because I feel like take the owners out of it. Have the Young Bucks, because the owners are too invested. That don't have a McMahon, don't have Tony Khan, and then just have like the Young Bucks, Cody and Heyman. I just feel like Heyman, he will dream up the craziest.
Oh, like granted, like people could try to say that in a way Heyman was a failure because obviously his company ECW went bankrupt, but that's just because he didn't have the money. His creative ideas are insane.
Yeah, exactly. Talk about being served a lemon and making lemonade.
Like he found that sugar and made that lemonade for sure.
Mm-hmm. He's like, all right, I guess I can't fully do it on my own.
Yeah, like we've talked about this off screen, like through text and in person, but like he really did innovate the business. Like without Paul Heyman, like, and plenty of people that are listening probably already know this, probably think this themselves, but like I think a lot of people, maybe even in the industry, like especially if you're in WWE, you forget like, hey, the Attitude Era, the NWO, DX, all of that, none of that likely happens if it's not for Paul Heyman kind of doing some of this crazy over the top stuff with ECW.
We are not professionals by any means. We're fans getting our opinion. If you disagree, that is okay, and we are happy to talk it out.
Yeah, feel free to.
Just don't get mad at us.
Yeah, exactly. If you're watching this segment, feel free to comment. Tell us what you think. We'll read it over and reply. But like,
And if
it's
you
our
watch
opinion.
if you watch this whole thing, man,
Yeah, if you listen to us ramble for however long we end
and
up
you can
rambling,
track along with how our
yeah, good luck. Good luck to you.
I don't know.
Good luck to you. But quickly kind of jumping back to some of the. No, yeah, jumping back to like some of the.
Because this one we don't really have to talk much about because I know we want to more focus a bit more on AEW, but the other crossover that I know will never happen, we were talking about this yesterday off screen, the Four Horsewomen versus the Four Horsewomen. It's never going to happen anymore because Sasha's gone, so you don't have the WWE Four Horsewomen unless hey Sasha, if you're watching this, that's fucking cool. First of all, I highly doubt it, but yeah, I mean I know there's a lot of struggles, and obviously you have to do what you have to do. I don't know the full story. But it would have been great to see a Four Horsewomen versus Four Horsewomen because I think I was saying yesterday, WWE has the other two Four Horsewomen of the UFC now. Yeah. So I'm sure they could work out a visitation. I don't know.
Visitation. No, I mean, and
honestly, crossover contract type thing where you just get the other two if they're still around. I actually don't know who they are. But they were on, I was telling you I was watching the Mae Young Classic, the first one, the tournament. And they were there, and they teased it. I guess the original 3-on-3 could still go because in the tournament Sasha wasn't there, so whatever. But that would be cool. Sorry, go back to if you don't want to comment more.
No. Actually, that's like a fair point. I think I don't think it would be like if Sasha and WWE are able to work something out and she comes back, whether it be this year or even in 5 years from now, whatever. I think that'd be a very possible semi crossover. Because, even with, Ronda and Shania, or however you pronounce your name,
you're great at names.
I'm great at it. I'm better with faces.
Ciampa, right? I'm pretty sure it's Ciampa.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Shayna. What did you?
I said Shayna, didn't I? No, I said Shania or something like that. Yeah. But anyways, what I was saying is that'd be very realistic because UFC fighters and MMA fighters in general, outside of Ronda and her, have made that jump. Like Cain Velasquez had like a couple of matches with, or was supposed to have a couple matches with like Brock Lesnar, like 2018, 2019.
Yeah, those crossovers have been going on forever.
Yeah, I mean, there's even like
you even have the Tyson. You had Mayweather.
Tyson come in, Mayweather. There was also, I mean, like, don't forget,
Ronda came around before she even was signed with WWE. Remember, she was kind of with that Stephanie. She was tagged with The Rock, right? Wasn't she tagged with The Rock before she?
No, I think that's after she signed. She signed at that point.
Oh, so that first time before she signed, she was just in the ring with them at a WrestleMania, right?
Something like that. Yeah,
I think she did like some move to Stephanie after Stephanie slapped The Rock or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna hit you, but hey.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So I think that'd be a very legitimate thing because who was the other guy that I'm trying to think of? I always forget his name. Who was there was like the one MMA guy that was in WWE for a while. No, not Blackman.
MMA, was he? No.
He might have been. He might have been a little bit. But no, like he was like the other guy that I'm thinking of. The other guy that I'm thinking of, and I always draw a blank on, he was like the IC champ a couple of times.
In the 90s, right?
In the 90s, yeah, in the 90s. Yeah, he faced Blackman a bunch.
I know. I didn't mean to say Black. I mean, Blackman obviously works, but I was thinking of him too, and I can see his face and everything. Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock, yeah. Like he's.
I was Ken Rock. No, that's not it.
Yeah, like he's the perfect example because like he was like a full-time like crazy MMA guy, and then he came into WWE and like just killed it. So I think that like fantasy match, that could you imagine if you would, I think that's definitely legitimate if WWE can manage to get Sasha back into the fold at some point. Or even if it doesn't work in WWE, like even like on the indies or something, like even if it's not like highly televised, just like finding a way to see that match would be amazing.
And no shade to Naomi either. We're sad to see you go as well. So if you're also
oh my god, I'm done with you. End of podcast. Okay. We're good. It's game over.
I hate
game over. But anyways, just before we move on to the next thing, just quickly bringing it back to AEW.
Right.
I wanted to bring up because I don't know if they promoted it before this, but I happened to see it last night when I was watching their Friday show, Rampage. they're promoting not this coming Wednesday, the following Wednesday. They're actually doing a barbed wire death match. So if you're free, that'll be a match that I actually think you'll enjoy. One, because of the violence, so it's something that's going to bring you in, and it's going to be Chris Jericho versus that guy Eddie Kingston. Yeah, well, I just know you. I know you're going to like that stuff if you like blood and guts. But yeah, so it's going to be Jericho. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't. My ADHD thing.
I would say it's going to be Jericho versus that guy Eddie Kingston, the one that doesn't like Claudio / Cesaro, whatever you want to call him by. So it's gonna be two of them, and to like, I mean, there's already barbed wire around the ring to keep interference out, but on top of that, Jericho's like current faction is going to be locked in a shark cage to make things even more interesting. So I'm going to be actually
action. Doesn't he have one with Claudio and all them? They're not.
No. So
they were just together for War Games.
Yeah, so he teamed up with like Claudio's team or whatever to like, I guess, get extra people. But the team that Claudio is on is Claudio, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, technically. It's John Moxley, formerly Dean Ambrose, and then there's this other guy, Wheeler Yuta, and then William Regal is the like manager or whatever. But yeah, Kingston had nothing to do with that. He just like teamed up with them because he hated Jericho, and still does. So with the whole shark cage thing, I'm actually going to be intrigued to see like if the team finds a way to like sneak out of the cage and like help Jericho. Like I'm sure they'll play that in somehow. But I'll be interested to see how that plays out. So yeah, if you're free in 2 weeks, I highly suggest watching it.
What date is it?
That would be
That's the weekend of the 16th, isn't it?
It's the 20. It'll be the 20th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll come up to New York.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, I'll just be around. I'll just be around.
Right? Is it up from Pennsylvania? Yeah.
Yeah, up. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you want to, definitely feel free to. But yeah, so I know I'll be watching that because I'm looking forward to that. Like, I think that'll be a good match because I watched. If I'm not mistaken, they did It was similar. They did an exploding barbed wire death wire.
Oh, I think you were
previously. Yeah, and it kind of got botched a little bit. AEW has come out and said like, yeah, that was a mess up. So I'll be interested if they do the whole exploding thing.
Have they been improving their camera angles and whatnot, and commentators saying their own things?
I mean, the commentators saying their own things recently.
I hate to say this out loud. I really, really do, and not again. We probably have maybe 5 people watching this, so who cares? But JR, love the guy, man. I mean, big impact in my childhood. I mean, he was the commentator all throughout the 90s, whatever. So, but sometimes you just gotta know when to retire, maybe. And it sounds maybe horrible, but even when like watching him in 2017 commentate for the Mae Young tournament with Lita, and I'm like, what do you say?
Yeah,
I'm like, it's hard to follow, and I'm like, oh, it's like, again, and I hate saying this out loud, but it's like, come on,
you need to hang up, yeah.
Before you just our image on your great. I mean, he could never. I reverse take that away. But like, you don't want to be remembered for. And I guess the people that should remember him won't remember him for the AEW miss-ups and all this. Like, and if the younger generation of kids watching now, and like maybe the people that only know him from, the end of 2010s or whatever, they're going to be like, what the heck is this guy doing? He doesn't make any sense. And it's like they don't know how freaking great he is.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if I just maybe didn't catch it before, like, we saw those things that pointed out all of his like mistakes with his commentary.
I mean, granted, those are easy mistakes, and I'm sure that I would probably make a couple too.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure I would.
But I wonder if like AEW is starting to notice it happening a lot because when I was watching Dynamite on Wednesday this week and then Rampage last night, what I noticed is JR's not out there for the entire show. They'll play his music and he'll come out only for like certain matches. So I think they're trying to like maybe do that so there's less mistakes on air and stuff like that. Which it's kind of like you said, it's sad to see and you don't want to say it out loud.
Right. And maybe what they can do is, I don't know, maybe this is what they're trying to do with, as they're just sprinkling him in there, just like maybe have the greatness from him rub off on somebody. But like, we need somebody like the King, I feel like.
I feel like the King is probably losing it too a little bit.
Oh no, I'm not saying bring him back.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying like, their personality just works so well together because I
Right.
felt like even if JR went off on a tangent sometimes, the King kind of brought it back, and it was like he would acknowledge it in a way that didn't
Make him look bad.
right.
Yeah,
So you need
exactly.
something like that as opposed to I think they have a commentator literally just say like, "Are you guys even trying at this point or something?"
Yeah.
Oh, don't you mean so and so? It's like okay, well, like I mean, I don't know how else you would handle that situation. But.
Yeah, it's like it's one thing.
Again, not a professional. Not a
It's
professional.
it's
My
yeah,
opinion,
exactly.
I don't know. You know.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's a fair point though. It's like if it's someone just going off on a tangent, kind of about the match that doesn't make sense, it's easy to reel them back in. But if they're saying like, "Oh, Dean Ambrose hits this move," and it's like, copyright, Dean Ambrose isn't here. This is John Moxley. Like that's a little bit different.
Does AEW, I guess, face whatever? That's not.
No, I don't. I can't imagine that they would face any sort of repercussions for saying the wrong name because it's not like they're doing character infringement where they're actually calling him that, like it's a mistake on the mic. But also at the same time, don't forget both WWE. Well, WWE doesn't flat out say the name that often, I don't think. But like AEW has flat out said like, oh, you can go back to WWE main event like night 10 of a 10 for 1 part special type of thing. So like. There's definitely like, yeah, there's obviously the copyright laws that exist, but like there's ways around them where you can still name these other entities and stuff like that without repercussions.
And that's why you're the criminal justice major, where you were.
Yeah, that worked out so well for me. Obviously, doing all of the criminal justicey things in my cushy office job. Yeah, I do what I can. But anyways, yeah. I think you're actually up next for trying to stump me on
I
the
was going to
wrestler.
say, should we just do one round of each per like series? Because I feel like this is, and maybe people are enjoying the content, and I hope you guys are. But I feel like this is kind of long for like a first episode, or for episodic type clips.
I get what you're saying.
So maybe like we save just a one round each per episode. I also didn't think of one, so.
You never came up with one. All right. Well, all right.
But as I was thinking, because I was going to, but I was thinking like this is I don't know how long this is already so far, but I just feel like that's probably good for our first attempt, and then see where. Because then what else was on the topic? Because we do have another topic, right?
We did. We had one more topic. Yeah. So I guess theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. So I think
we didn't really touch upon it. We kind of we sort of did what we were originally thinking for quote unquote next next episodes. Could you imagine segment and did it this week and to an extent, which we really can go through tomorrow. But I guess at the point we've been going for about kind of 40 minutes rambling. So we can close it out. So for those of you that are actually, paying attention to this, watching this, whether it's on YouTube or on TikTok, we hope you enjoyed it.
Hey, I can shoot for the stars or what is it? Shoot for the moon, land amongst the stars,
something like that. I've never tried. I'm afraid of falling. But yeah, so we definitely hope you've enjoyed listening into our random ramblings. We have fun talking about it. Like we said, we'd be talking like this regardless of recording or not. But if you enjoyed this, follow us. Our next episode will probably do a couple of more guess the wrestlers with some good vibes. And then we'll probably jump into a couple of segments that we think we're going to call Could You Imagine, which are basically, it'd be awesome if we saw this. So we're going to talk a little bit about a WWE versus AEW event, which is kind of what we talked about a little bit before with, having Paul, Cody, and the Young Bucks try to plan that out. And then also we kind of found an interesting one about what if Shawn Michaels had gone to WCW. So we'll maybe jump into that a little bit and keep up with some current events. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
If you did the whole time.
Yeah, if you hung in. Appreciate it.
We should leave like a shameless, leave a comment with something to let us know that you watched the whole thing.
There you go. Yeah. If you guys are still in here hanging out watching, let us know if you watched it, or if you didn't make it all the way through, you probably let us know when you stopped.
Comment like a taco emoji or something.
Ooh, I like it. I like tacos. It's not Tuesday, but I'll eat them. All right. See you later, guys.
Oh, shit.